All right, so here we go with the first skill of section 1 of chapter 1. I'm going to try to do this as close to just a normal lesson as I can, obviously without your questions in between, but at any point during any one of these videos, feel free to pause. Okay, if you're trying to write stuff down and I went too fast, pause it. You can always rewind, go back through something, and just kind of see where you're running into troubles, where you have questions. Write those questions down, email them to me, send them to me, or talk to me if you're here in class. But we start chapter 1, which is kind of this weird chapter, just with a whole bunch of background things that we're going to use all throughout the year, but they don't necessarily tie together very well. And that first topic are sets of numbers. Now, we work with sets of numbers all the time. Like, that's literally the world that we're living in when we do algebra or any sort of math or work with numbers in general. To set the background for this, I'm going to steal from section 1 in the book. I'm going to steal that pool or billiards example. Okay, so if you've ever played the game of pool before, you should hopefully know that there's 15 balls in a set of pool balls. Okay, and how are they separated or how are they labeled? They're labeled with numbers. Okay, so they're labeled numbers 1 through 15. The thing that separates them in the game that we commonly play is solids and stripes. Okay, so they're separated by their colors, they're separated by their patterns. Okay, and so in a game of solids and stripes, you have the solids, which are numbers 1 through 7. You have the stripes, which are numbers 9 through 15. And then you have the 8 ball. Okay, and so for anyone who's ever played the game before, the goal is to knock in your whole side first. So if you're the solids, you got to knock in numbers 1 through 7, and then the 8 ball to finish it off. Okay. And I really like this example because it helps me kind of just set up the main vocab that we work with sets. So in the world of numbers and like equation solving, things like that, there are 3 different scenarios that we will commonly come across. Okay. The first one is when we have a set of something. Okay. And a set is just everything in a group. Okay. So like the pool example, the set of pool balls, everything in that group are numbers 1 through 15. Okay, and that's just like solving an equation where your answer is the complete set. That just means that everything works. So if you get an equation where it's like all real numbers, everything's true, no matter what you do, it always works, that is a complete set of solutions. Okay. A subset's the most common thing in algebra we run into, where we have a set of possible answers, but only a handful of them, or maybe only one works. Okay, so a subset is a part of the whole set. It's like in the world of pool, okay, we play the game to a subset. We play to try to get a part of the whole set in. Okay, you don't just like take out the cue ball and start trying to knock every ball into the pockets you can. That's not how most pool games are played. Okay, you try to get part of them in. Okay, so maybe you're the solids. Your goal is to knock in the solids. The solids are a subset of the whole thing. That's part of the whole group. So a subset is just a piece of the whole thing. Okay. And then the third, and it's the least common type of set that we run into, but it does happen sometimes, it's called an empty set. Okay. An empty set is literally a set where there's nothing there. So that's like trying to solve an equation and you get no solution, like nothing is ever going to work. That is an empty set of solutions. Okay. In the world of pool, an empty set, something that's not there, we don't have any pool balls that are pink. So if I said, hey, list the pink pool balls for me, there'd be nothing. Okay, we don't have any that have letters on them. Okay, they all have numbers on them. Okay, that's an empty set. Okay, we don't have any that have decimals. Okay, those are all empty sets. There's nothing there. If I asked you to list all the pool balls with decimals on them, you're not going to have any. So 3 really common vocab terms: a set, a subset, and an empty set. They also just so happen to be the 3 different types of sets of solutions that we end up with. Okay, so where are we using that? Or like, what's the first and probably most normal or important thing that we do with sets? I would say that's ordering a set. Okay, so taking a set of numbers and placing them in order, generally from least to greatest. Okay, so can you compare 2 numbers and know which one's bigger? Okay, it's a basic skill that you've used before going all the way back to elementary school, but it's good to review it with different context. Okay, so the different context here is just the different versions or different forms that we can write a number in. Okay, so we're going to order a set of numbers. The easiest way to do that is to make them all in the decimals, because that's something you can do with your calculator. You just punch it in, take the decimal, write it out to 1 or 2 decimal places, and then compare them all to each other. Okay, so we're going to order them from least to greatest. First thing we're going to do, make them all decimals. Okay, 0.6 is already a decimal. The square root of 2, if I punch that into a calculator, just hit square root of 2 and equals, you get 1.41. 0 is 0. Negative 5 over 2, take negative 5 divided by 2. Okay, a fraction is just dividing, so that would be negative 5 divided by 2, which is negative 2.5. And that's also already a decimal. So from least to greatest, we start with the most negative thing. We work our way to the most positive thing. Okay, so up here, the only negative thing is this guy. So that's negative 5 over 2 is the smallest number. Okay, put it back in its original form. Okay. Then that's it for negative, so that one's done. Okay, and then we have 0. And then we get into the positives. The smallest positive number between these two, we count just place by place. So it's 0 point, okay, and then 5 is smaller than 6. Okay, so this is about 5/10, that's about 6/10. This is the smaller one, 0.5129, then 0.6, and then 1.41 would be the next biggest, and the biggest one up here. We'll put it back in its original form as a square root of 2. Okay, so to order a set from smallest to biggest, put them all in the same form. Decimal is the easiest form to do. Okay, and then you should be able to arrange them. So when we're going through examples and stuff, if and when I do multiple examples, you're always welcome also to pause the video and try to do the next example on your own. So if you want to do that, just hit pause right now, try it, and you can check it against what we do here in just a second. And if you pause it or not, it doesn't really matter. We're going to keep going here. So a little awkward. So again, put them all in the decimal form. So negative 2 is already a decimal. Pi is 3.14. That's already a decimal. 3 2/5. People have questions with how to do that with a calculator a lot of times. Just do the 2/5 because you already know it's 3 point something because 3 is the main number. So it's 3 point. Then do 2/5. So 2 divided by 5. And 2 divided by 5 is 0.4. So 3 2/5 is 3.4. 4 is 2/5. 4.4 is 2/5. Okay, so do the fraction itself, and then this is the front number. Negative 2 square roots of 3. Literally all you do is negative 2 times, and then the square root of 3. So there's a multiplication in there even if you don't see it. Okay, so negative 2 times the square root of 3 is about negative 3.46. And then order your set. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers up here. 3 of them are negative. So start with the most negative, and then you go to the most positive. The most negative one up here is this guy. So start with negative 2 square roots of 3. That one's done. Okay, between these two, the most negative one is negative 2. That one's done. Then negative 0.321. Okay, and then you get into the positive numbers. These are the 2 positive numbers that are left. This one is smaller, so pi would be next. And the biggest one is this one, which is 3 2/5. Okay, so skill 1, just getting used to a little bit of basic vocab. Sets, this is a set of numbers. Okay, subset is a part or a smaller group. Empty sets are no solution type things. We'll see those later on in the year. Okay, and then the first and most basic thing we can do with a set of numbers is just order it, least to greatest.